You've identified, this is a first-time offense, by the way, and you've identified that this wasn't malicious intent, but thoughtless disobedience. Oscar.
Maybe a confrontation.
Okay. I want to expound on that a bit more. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it depends on his attitude.
Yeah.
If the kid's doing well and he got distracted and just kind of sit down and talk to him and say, look, one more.
So the warning talk.
Yeah. But if he's had an attitude and he's been jacking around, it's like, well, it's time. Maybe.
Gotcha. Oscar's gracious there. All right. Gio.
I think you mentioned it, take it away, tell them, like you can explain it to them, or if like many of us were doing a vision for our kid, you let them know how painful it was to save up for that bike. Or if you bless them with a Christmas, you didn't tell them like, hey, daddy worked hard to bless you with this. Can you respect him in the way to take it to where it will be must or something?
All right, good. So there's some more expounding on the thought, and Gio mentioned at the very beginning there to remove the privilege. That would be an appropriate consequence. I agree with that because it's related to the crime. You're irresponsible with something that's been entrusted to you, you're going to lose that privilege for a period of time. Next time they go to use it and it's not available to them, it reminds them of exactly their infraction. And again, that was based on the fact that we had already told them, now if this is a continual thing, we move into the realm of greater levels of discipline. But the bottom line is that generally gets the message across. And there are a lot of acts of thoughtless disobedience. As a parent, we pray for discernment to know exactly what those things are. But if we're honest, sometimes we're a bit thoughtless too, aren't we? And it's good to remember this. It's good to realize that not all the things we do, are intentionally, in fact, most. And so the bottom line here is to keep that in mind, parents. And so we want to go over a few typical punishments and principles to consider. First of all, as we talked about, loss of privileges. Parents must realize that most of what their children are allowed to do or to have is a privilege, not a right. Does everyone understand that?
Yes, that's right.
Kids need to understand that principle. It's not a right, this is a privilege. And it has to be proven that you're responsible. Privileges should be revoked to those who prove themselves irresponsible. It is very important that the children be told in advance the possible discipline they will bring upon themselves. And I'm a firm advocate of that. As Oscar and Gio pointed out, when you communicate with our kids, they should know what to expect. I'm not into the surprise element of parenting. I think that the same thing should be up front. Especially if they're old enough to understand what we're dealing with, and so keep that in mind. Toys or clothes which are repeatedly left out may be taken away. If they are lazy or irresponsible in their work, they should repeat the chore. If the dishes weren't done right, do them again. It's cruel, Pastor. It's effective. It's very good. Very necessary. They can get extra jobs, perhaps. And here Reb Bradley suggests miss the next meal. I'll let that bounce around the room a little bit and see if I get a reaction on that one. Ooh, now that sounds like child abuse, Pastor Jones. I said one meal, and he backs up his premise with 2 Thessalonians. Let me get my reader on 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 and verse number 10. I guess we'll put it on the screen so we can have it visible for everybody. Go ahead and read that for us.
For even when we were with you, we commanded you this: if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat.
All right, now we're going overboard here, Pastor. I'll open this up for a bit of comment there for a moment, but let me just say, if you did this, and there's testimonies that parents who've done this before have found it extremely effective. But they won't die. We haven't lost any yet from this. Vonna, go ahead.
I've been really fortunate for my 4 kids to have a good pediatrician.
Good.
Who, when I researched her, I wanted to find someone that actually had kids. And she has 4 herself, but she's actually a Christian. I didn't know that when I told her. But she's a Christian, and she had four kids that are grown. And she even leaves really good Christian material books in there for parenting, good parenting. And one of the things that she really, she's pretty much been my mentor to help me really
Good, good.
stand my ground with my kids. Like, she was the first person that really helped mold and shape me into on my own too. And she just always would drill into me and my husband about not making the kids picky and the foods that they eat.
Mm.
And so she used to always tell her,
We choose how much, or we choose when and what. They just choose.
Choose when and what. Yeah, okay.
and so she was saying that if you don't, like, if they don't want to eat it, then they can go without a meal. And this is coming from a pediatrician. And she was like, they'll be okay, the next meal. They can eat that meal, what you provided for them the next meal. And so it's really been good for us, for the most part, our kids aren't picky, but just instilling that in us, it's helped, and it has definitely worked. And so kids aren't gonna die, and she said that too to us. She's like, you're not gonna die, you'll be fine. I'm a pediatrician,
Yep, yep.
so that was good advice for us.
An interesting subject, isn't it? And how important is it? I know this may seem a bit off track, but it's not. How important is a child's diet and nutrients that they receive? Do we have a problem in our generation today? It's very commercialized, and it's always, promoted heavily with all the sugary stuff and, all this and that. Is that affecting them? Does it affect behavior? Awesome.
Definitely affects the mood. Kids don't eat right, and their energy levels are whack. It affects their mood. It just doesn't, they don't have a good diet.
Yep. All right. So there is a definite parental responsibility here. Ron is touching on the pediatrician mentioned, and very solid. Good source there. We thank God for that. So anyway, let's move forward with these thoughts. How about Proverbs chapter 20, verse number 4? Let me hone in on this thought of work ethic. Go ahead and read that for us, 20 and 4.
The lazy man will not plow because of winter. He will beg during harvest and have nothing.
Okay. Wealth of truth there, and applied to the lives of our kids, we can understand what the future holds. If that pattern continues, it has to stop, it has to be broken. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 25.
The desire of the lazy man kills him, for his hands refuse to labor.
All right. So some good thoughts there from the book of Proverbs for sure. Declare to your children that they must complete their chores before they may leave for recreational outings. If it is time for them to leave for an outing, but you determine that they were irresponsible, so they did not complete their chores or complete them correctly, must not be permitted to go until they are done. If the sports team has to compete without them, they must learn the lesson that personal irresponsibility can hurt others. Is that a true lesson in life?
Yes.
I mean, let's say you choose to be irresponsible. Is that going to affect anybody on your job? Is that going to affect anybody in your family? That's one of the most profound lessons of life. Our actions do directly affect others closest to us. Personal irresponsibility can hurt others. Proverbs chapter 10, verse number 26. Let's have our reader take that for us.
As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy man to those who sin him.
All right, so those who sent are disappointed, aren't they? And it's interesting that most kids who incur this kind of parental response get the lesson. They get the lesson. They get their heart set on doing certain things, don't they? But then it's discovered that they didn't fulfill their obligations. Wise parent says this needs to be done first. Do we believe in a first things first principle, church? We do, don't we? We recognize the old adage, work before play. Did you ever hear that one growing up? Why? Because that's the way life is. We're in an always play-oriented generation, but the reality is that there are things that come first. Thank God there are times of refreshing and recreation that can come, but always we have to have our priorities right. Any thoughts or questions on that one? Any comments or questions? James?
Just thinking in general, when when people think about laziness, they think of people doing nothing, but that's not actually true. What laziness is lack of priority.
Okay, good. All right, good thought. Anything else on that one? Adrian?
So, just for me and my brothers growing up, I know, especially when I came into the church, that I seen kids first. In my house, my stepdad had it set up where everyone there at work at first, and then the kids at last. So with that motivated me to start working at a young age, so I could start eating.
Hey.
So I remember being like 12 years old and going to work in the watermelon field and different stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got to eat with people that actually work. I got to eat earlier than my younger brothers.
Hey.
I try to tell my daughter that on Saturdays I have her clean and she be dragged and you got to do it over. So I just sit in her room in a chair and make her clean the same thing over and over and over and she do it right. So,
Good dad over here, right? Good testimony. Very good. I like that one. Anyone else? Good thought there. John?
The timing of it, like when they want to do something. You know, as parents, obviously, you might have a temptation, some maybe more than others, of just giving your kids what you want. You love your kids, you want to give them the desires of their heart. So maybe even thoughtlessly, you do it. But when you do that, you miss the opportunity, opportunities there, because like they want something, they want to spend their time on something else. They're looking to you to give them permission to do that. Go to the park, whatever, you know, read a book, play video games, whatever it may be. But their room is in disarray, or the backyard was left unkept because they was back there playing. And these are all missed opportunities because, man, they're hard workers when they want to move on to something else.
Hello.
And then just a real cool, because laziness, right? So a plug for Dave Ramsey. He teaches financial counselor. He's also a Christian. He teaches about, Gio mentioned it, commission instead of allowance. So not an entitlement generation, or at least you're trying to teach your kids.
Good.
It's not about entitlements. Allowance, here's your allowance, you're gonna get it every week. It's your allowance, it's your entitlement, rather a commission. And so you put a price tag on chores, each and every individual chore. And for us, we manage it by, if, you know, you're gonna get paid that chore if it's good enough. So you know, one dad or mom is gonna have to, you know, inspect the work. And then if the work is acceptable, then you're gonna get that whatever price tag you put on it, and then
Good.
So, but it works because in terms of the kids, our kids, is that they understand already at this early age. Girls are 6, Caleb's 8. That work equals money, money equals work. They already understand.
Right.
And it's kind of these cool dynamics because when it's payday, and one gets less money than the other, there's a lesson right there, like that's a teachable moment. Hey, you know why you didn't get as much money as this one did? And they can recall automatically the talk that we had earlier in the week about, you know, you're not doing anything, and she is.
Right.
And
Good.
so,
Good. I like it all the way around. And Josh highlighted at the beginning there the emphasis on an opportunity for parents, right? These kids have their hearts set on something, and right there is an opportunity for parents to seize. Say, this isn't finished. And very good thoughts there. I like that. Let's talk about driving age for a moment. They are near the age for a driver's license. Emphasize to them that driving is a privilege for those who prove themselves responsible. Postpone the date they may apply for their license by 1 month every time they manifest significant irresponsibility.
Yes, that's awesome.
Everybody, I remember those days when you were ready to learn how to drive, right? Man. So, is driving a privilege?
Yes, it is.
It sure is. The dinner is eaten too slowly or complained about. Uh-oh. I mean, we have moms in here. It's Mother's Day. And, you know, moms work hard to get a good meal.
That's right.
And there's complaining. Declare that dinner is over. Take it away. Give it to them for breakfast the next morning. And again, parents testify this is very effective. I'm sure it is. I mean, they prefer Captain Crunch to Brussels sprouts, you know, at 7 in the morning. So probably gets their attention a little bit. Okay? If they are unthankful, we're going to touch on this one now. For what is ordered for them at a restaurant, perhaps, or what's cooked at the restaurant, cancel their order and allow them only water to drink. What's going on around here, Pastor? This is good. Oh, man. Hardcore, right? I'll tell you what, one thing for certain has to be emphasized, and that's thanksgiving. That's gratitude. And, please and thank you should be the most spoken words. When we talk about our kids, and first things that they learn is please and thank you. They may not like that dinner as much as the one the night before, but you know what? You're going to be grateful for this dinner. Mom and Dad worked hard, put it on the table, it was cooked, prepared, or even ordered at a restaurant, be paid for. There will not be complaining. There will not be ingratitude.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a stickler here, and I want to open this up with some scripture. 2 Timothy chapter 3 really describes last days conditions, and this is prevalent in the lead up to Christ's return. Verse number 2, 2 Timothy 3:2. Go ahead.
People will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud. That's the one. Oh, yeah. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be.
That's good right there, Gio. That's perfect. In verse 2, so there we have the word unthankful. Gio mentioned ingratitude is absolutely a mark that Paul highlighted there, and we can see it plainly. It begins in the home, doesn't it?
Yes.
They learn gratitude or ingratitude, and so it's parental responsibility from the youngest of ages.
Yes.
I want to hold it there for a moment. Any questions or comments on that? We'll get to Dawn on Luke 17 in a moment, but let me go to Kendra. Go ahead.
So, the water thing, you would do that to any age child? Like a 3-year-old? Like, just cancel the order? They're like, well, I don't want that.
Yeah, and I preface everything I'm saying by the fact that I started the series, the lesson, by telling you we don't have a cookie cutter here approach. You do have to take into consideration ages of children and the circumstances surrounding the event. Definitely for kids of age to recognize what's going on. Complaining, ingratitude, that's gonna be the majority of the time, in my book. Now, you go real early ages, 2 and below. I understand, the dynamics there, and so I'm just saying I'm a cookie cutter, and parents, you have to be discerning and you have to use discretion on all of these things we're talking about. I'm just trying to put out a decent example, a decent model you can reference to, and hopefully it helps. So that's as specific as I'm going to get on that question, Kim. Anyone else? Good thought.
I was going to say, like you say, young age from 2. Me and Ernest did that from when they were young age.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to the restaurants, that was like a number one thing. You couldn't date, you couldn't even think he was going to talk out loud and whatnot. You're going to sit, you're going to eat what I order. We're going to ask you what you want, but you're going to eat it, and you're going to be fine. We're going to talk story. As we did that when they were young, as they got older, we let them sit on the table by themselves. We let them, because we wanted to see if you're going to be okay, we let them do that, and they were fine. And I still do it today because I did it to Nathan and Uriah last night. They bounced on the chairs and in the restaurant, and I told them, no, you don't do that. Turn around, sit. We're in the restaurant. You sit. You be good. And to me, I guess we never went through that with our kikis when they were small. And then teaching them young and bringing them as they got older, I guess it's awesome to teach them when they were young and try to teach them as we go. It's parents, it's mother and father together. having my daughter do what she did at the wedding, it was a relief for me.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
have to worry about it.
Right.
And that's what I mean by mother and father. Come together, be on the same page, bring the babies up, especially you're saved and you have God in your life. More awesome.
Very good. That's very good. Words of truth there. And I just want to point out, she highlights the public arena, right? And parents, we have to work on this. Very good. Uncle.
Discipline also starts, like you said, in the public. So she was really hard on etiquette, you know, speak when you spoke, and no elbows on top of the table, that sort of thing. Don't play with your fork, don't play with your knives, you know, be considerate of your surroundings, you know, eat your food properly, you know, just, that started, like she said, she would literally set them on the table by themselves to learn how to eat. So kids, they want to learn. So we would make them learn how to, you know, just sit on the table, they would eat. Of course, we put paper underneath it, they're already messy, but anyway. But they would learn how to eat. And as they got older, to come on the table to learn how to eat by themselves, she teach them, you know, don't use your fork like this, you know, don't, you know, she would teach etiquette. So discipline also starts at the table so they can learn around
Good,
the
good.
the surroundings.
Very good. Now, right on, right on. And I want to build on that, and I want to continue on the train just with thanksgiving and gratitude. I have it on read from Luke 17, 12 to 19, a lesson what we all know, I think, pretty well, but I want to drive the point home here. Go ahead and read that for us, 12 to 19.
Then as he entered a certain village, there met him 10 men who were lepers, who had stood afar off. And they lifted up their voices and said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. So when he saw them, he said to them, Go and show yourself to the priest. And so it was that they went. That as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, returned with a loud voice, glorifying God, and fell down on his face at his feet, giving thanks. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus answered and said, Were there not 10 lepers? But where are the 9? Were there not any found who returned give glory to God except this foreigner? And he said to him, Arise, go your way, your faith has made you well.
All right, so this familiar story reminds us that out of 10, 9 didn't have the presence of mind to return. And that was a tremendous miracle, I would have to submit to your opinion. Being cleansed from leprosy is kind of a big deal. And yet, this is the issue regarding gratitude. We would like to think it's just automatic, but it's not, is it? It really is something that, as parents, we want to focus in on, prioritize, and never let up on. I said never let up on. One thing I know about people who are saved, genuinely born again, is they're grateful. Gratitude and salvation are hand in glove. You just can't separate them. In fact, that's generally what keeps us every day, is getting up in the morning with that sense of appreciation to our God, moving us forward. So, parents, you have to impart that. This is not automatic, something you have to prioritize in your parenting. Make sure that anytime they're the recipient, and children are the recipient of something, small or great, the words that come from their mouth. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm grateful. Adon.
Pastor, in a self-centered generation with the technology nowadays, I think one of the things that we have to teach our children is, because they're becoming so antisocial with the media, I know that I don't let Isaiah play random video games, but he had a cell phone with him, something that we allow him once in a while, so he can play games, one of them at least. And so he took it to Auntie's party, and I let him run the show, and he started showing this I'm bored kind of attitude, and we're trying to, teach him we're there, not because of us, it's It's their wedding, it's their celebration. We're grateful for them, and that's why we're there. So the whole ordeal I explained, and well, eventually I ended up coming home, and I immediately, where's your phone? You're not allowed to use it anymore. And this time I had to explain why. I said, we were there to celebrate them. I said, and this doesn't have necessarily your name and title. It's about them. We're there because they're our friends, and we need to show that respect to them.
Good, good.
And by taking it out and trying to teach them, this is a privilege, not a right, first of all. Second, we had to teach them that when we enjoy the fellowship with the brethren, you know what I mean, the somebody else's success of 35 years of marriage, somebody else's accomplishment, we need to enjoy that with a gratitude of heart. And so I explained that to him, take out the phone, and maybe this weekend he might have it.
Right, right.
But those are the things that we try to, and trying to aim at what social media is doing to our children. I'm trying to
Good point there, Don. Really very important for parents to grasp that truth. And he's talking about an antisocial dimension that comes with that, and it's so important. We don't let that slide. So Oscar's going to do it.
Well, when I see a family that has kids that are disciplined and there's proper authority in there, I'm okay if they miss a meal every night. As long as they got good food at the home. And when you see it functioning normally, you know something's at work. It's got to be a meal that's done.
Yeah, there you go. And can't help but to say, especially in this Western culture we live in, probably be okay. Hold it there, yeah, right.
So we were talking about the kid earlier, and something I learned just by being here is before I go anywhere now with my kid, especially John, I let him know, okay, we're going here, and I learned this from here. I need you to be invested, and he's 2 years old. Yes, he has energy, but giving him that instruction before we get out of the car help him. So every morning when we come here, I try to explain it to him. Mommy only needs 30 minutes. Give mommy that 30 minutes, and I'll take you to the park, library, wherever you want to do. It's like you let him, give him the instruction, and then also reward him afterwards. And consistency is worth like miracle. And I've learned that with my son, and it's like wow, So even like at home also, like when daddy's home for dinner, come home for dinner, we're like got the food ready, and we're sitting down, and the boys already giving their hands out in case time to press. We're not even ready, but they're like, okay, food is there, and they're giving hand, holding hand, we're gonna press. So it's consistency in our home, that discipline, that it help our kid, and it's amazing.
Good testimony, very, very true. And man, I'm encouraged by our good input this morning. I want to get back to the bottom in just a minute if we could. I want to move into this thought of rectifying damage done. Because sometimes when we talk about thoughtless disobedience, we know kids can make a mess, or they can accidentally, I'm emphasizing the word accidentally, break something. I mentioned it before, but it might be something that even has value to it. This could really set a parent off, couldn't it? That was worth $75. Well, that's not the issue, though. All right? Be careful, because you think $75, I got to grab the rod. And how many know sometimes we didn't watch where we were going? It wasn't purpose. It wasn't premeditated. It was a genuine accident. Do genuine accidents happen around your house? They happen around mine, so I understand that. We have to be discerning on this, but even then, there needs to be consequences. There needs to be rectification of the damage done. This brings us to the word restitution. Did you know that is a biblical word? Restitution. Paying the cost of replacing items that are lost or broken. Of course, children who are too young to have money should at least travel with the parent to the store, participate in the purchase, or participate in cleaning up the mess, or what have you. There needs to be their involvement here. So let's go to Exodus 22 and verse 6 to get the subject of restitution covered. I want to hone in on that thought. Go ahead.
When the fire breaks out and catches in thorn, so that standing grain, or the field is consumed,
All right, so here's someone careless. Maybe they were careless with their barbecue. I don't know what they did back in those days, but God says, you know, there's going to be restitution. It's not just, oh, sorry. So here we understand that principle. It's making things right, isn't it? It's being involved in rectifying what's been wrong. We can talk about repairs. Children can be involved in repairing broken items. Children too young to make repairs should be with the one who does the work, so they can develop a sense of appreciation for the effects of their irresponsibility. And then there's restoration, cleaning up any mess that's made, no matter how long it takes. Of course, children who are too young to do it by themselves should be required to help in some way. How about sitting down with them and showing them some examples from the Bible? Saying, you know what, here's what the Word says, and applying a lesson. Does that have merit? It does. So keep that in mind. And of course, penalties should be increased in proportion to the number of offenses. Repeated infractions should, of course, be treated as rebellion. Continual, if it's continual, and certainly, intentional. All right, so no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful, of course. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness. That would be Hebrews chapter 12. I want to have our reader, for emphasis' sake, read that for us. Hebrews 12, verse number 11. Go ahead.
Now, though chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful nevertheless, afterward yields peaceful fruit and righteousness to those who have been trained by it.
All right, so again, we're not to in any way be follow through on what God's called us to do, regardless of the emotions of those children, things that are involved there. But we've covered some bases when it comes to thoughtless disobedience. I don't know if Vaughn still has a hand here. Wants to go ahead.
I really love that we're talking about the public arena and how our kids behave in that. And for me, I have 4 kids, and all of them, are young, but also Vina has 3, and so they're pretty much stepping stones because it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. She had 1, I had 1, so they're close in age. They're like siblings, and so throughout the week, we'll get together and we'll go out, and that's 7 kids between the both of us. And so one day we did go to Down to Earth, and we were sitting, and we had all the kids sit around this table, and there was a couple sitting off to the side, and my sister and I were actually just having a conversation, and the kids were really quiet. They were sharing some cookies with each other. Samantha was helping manage Waverly, and so Vina and I were just in our conversation, not even aware that they were there. They were just doing their own thing, enjoying each other and fellowshipping. And I could kind of sense that the couple was kind of staring at us, and they kept staring at us, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm making sure I'm like, they're behaved, they're okay, and so then I walked off to go grab something, and the lady that was sitting with the man, she was walking off at the same time, and she was walking towards me, and she just said, those are the best behaved kids that I have ever seen in my life.
Awesome.
And she was like mid-40s, she's like, I've ever seen in my life. She was like, keep up the good work, and so I was touched by that, and I went back to the kids, and I told the kids, sitting over there, and I told them exactly what she said, and so I complimented them and said, thank you guys for doing that, and it was so funny because Alex, she just got a pip in her step. She was like tucking in chairs, and it really they were blessed that their behavior paid off too, and that somebody complimented them. But that wasn't the first time that has ever happened. Like, I have taken my own 4 kids out. My husband and I have sat together and had time together as a family, and I can't even count how many times people have approached us complimenting our kids and how well behaved they are.
Yes.
And it's just so rewarding as a parent to know that, okay, I'm doing something right, you know what I mean? And then, like, the thing about social media or technology, it's unfortunate, but a lot of parents that you see in public, they have their kids in a phone or an iPad. And one thing that I don't like for my kids is, yes, we allow them to have some electronic time, but I don't like them to have electronics in public because, to me, I want them to know how to socialize.
Good,
If
good.
there's people around, you shouldn't be stuck in an electronic.
Amen.
You know, you
Good.
should be able to socialize. So a lot of times they'll try to hover around the person playing the electronic, and I'm like, no, get up and go find somebody to play with. You know, it's like you don't need to be doing that when there's people around. You have no reason to be bored because there's people that you can go and entertain yourself with and have a good time. Way
Excellent.
better than that game will give you. So.
Great input there from Vaughn. And on that note, any other parents get a few of those compliments from time to time? I think we probably get a few hands here to recognize. That's rewarding. It's a good input, man. We have some really quality thoughts here coming forward and very applicable for all parents. We'll close it out. Any other comments or input? Maybe one or two more, and we'll finish out for the morning for a time of fellowship. Very, very important stuff that we're discussing here. Mark, I'll go ahead.
Just about the holding the food, the staff food. I remember when I was little, about 4 or 5, me and my older sister were a year and a half apart, and we were like kind of like twins together. That's our relationship. And my parents, well, my dad specifically, we didn't eat our food. We would just stay at the table the whole night. Not, you know, not till midnight or anything, but until bedtime.
Yeah.
And so I hated vegetables, and she hated certain things, and we're like, we actually made a pact, like, yeah, we're gonna stay here all night. That, you know, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I know. And so one time, my dad finally was like, okay, yeah, go to bed, and then the next morning, all day, that was all we had to eat. We didn't change. We didn't eat for breakfast. We had to eat for lunch or dinner the next day. And so we did that twice, and I was like, no, I'm not doing
It's
that.
time to make a
again.
change.
So
Yeah.
the next time, my sister was like, okay, we're gonna do it again. Like it was actually a plan. Like, we were really
Oh, man.
Unfortunately. And so I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And my dad brought dinner, and it was vegetables. I was like, I'm eating it. And so I ate it. And she was like looking at me like,
Good job. Wow.
that made work.
Man, we got to talk about any there. That is outstanding. Good stuff today. Very encouraging. Again, happy Mom's Day to all you valiant soldiers, amen, who are here. Some great moms in our church. Let's bow our heads. We're going to have a time of fellowship. It's a blessing to be able to do this. Please be back in the sanctuary 2 minutes before 10 o'clock, 9:58, so we can all be together for the first song, worshiping Jesus this morning with all of our hearts, and have a great day. I believe God's going to really do extremely great things in our midst. So let's believe God for many visitors, souls saved. Reach out to somebody, maybe new converts that you've never met before. Reach out to them. Make yourself known to them. Make a friend. Let's dismiss with a word of prayer. We're thanking God for His blessing on today's Sunday school classes, and we just want to ask blessing on the time of fellowship also. Glory to God. Tyrone, would you pray?
God, we're just grateful again just to gather, Father, to be able to receive your word. And God, we just ask you to help every parent in this place, God. Help us to give good instruction to our kids, God, that they would receive discipline, God, that they would understand these ideas, God, of just gratefulness, of hard work. God, I pray you help us to gain understanding in that, and even help our children, God, to gain understanding in that. And we just trust you, God, to move in our families